Today, I wanted to have a conversation about regret and how this otherwise very draining, ruminating, life taking emotion, sensation, memory can be transmuted and alchemized into fuel and power that you can apply into the next adventure you want to partake in your life. And I want to show you that process by first talking about a personal regret that I have in my life that I've struggled with for a long time and still battle with, but have found through this process the energy and the ambition that I can apply into the next thing without being dragged down by that emotion slash memory. So I'm very excited to share with you, and I'm going to get started by saying the biggest regret that I have in my life, or I've had more predominantly in my life, that I did not continue pursuing my jiu-jitsu career in terms of competition. I had an original vision for myself that I wanted to be a black belt world champion. I had that ever since I was around 17 years old. And I'm 31 now, and I pushed for it for 6 years. And then all of a sudden, one day, I woke up and my soul just didn't want to do it anymore. And my ego, of course, was not happy. My ego was frustrated that I wasn't continuing and wanting to push for it, but I couldn't. Everything within me, my body, my soul, my spirit, everything was just not aligned anymore with it. As you can imagine, that was frustrating. There was misalignment, and I was tormented for years about what I could have been, what I could have pushed. And just to give you some context, I am still, but very good at jiu-jitsu. I'm a black belt, and I've competed for a long time, won a ton of medals, a majority of them being gold, no exaggeration whatsoever. And I was very good at it, and I am still very good at it. So there was this feeling, this pain of the unlived life that I could have had I pushed for it, and that tormented me for a very long time, to the point where I couldn't even watch jiu-jitsu anymore. I loved watching competitions and watching the tournaments and being immersed in the techniques. I loved it, but during that time, I couldn't. The minute I watched it, I would start getting emotional. I would start eventually crying, especially if I watched someone win an event and they would express this relief. They would cry, and you can tell that this meant a lot for them, and they poured their heart and soul into it, and to finally achieve it was a out of body experience for them. And because I've visualized that for so long, I can tap into it and feel it, but then immediately after just experience a great amount of pain because I'm not that person. Now, it was until I understood a particular process on how to actually tap into regret as fuel, because we all live with regret in some shape or form. And even those that I watch and they tell me they have no regrets, I have a very hard time believing them. A lot of us have within us the unlived life, the life we could have had we had maybe pushed for a certain career, taken an opportunity, married the person we should have married. There's always something. And in my line of work and the psychology that I study, which is depth psychology, more Carl Jung inspired, anything you ignore, anything you project, it's just not going to go anywhere. It's going to come back in some shape or form, in physical pain and psychic distress. And so eventually I said, okay, this regret is killing me. So what did I do? So the first thing you have to do is face it and admit to it. I had to face inwardly and say, yes, I regret not continuing. But given where I was at the time, I felt I had no choice. I would have been unhappy had I continued doing it. So that's the first thing. Face that pain head on and name it for exactly what it is. Not so you can sink into a pit, but to just face truth head on. And don't label anything else around it other than for what it is. A painful memory. This will prevent you from ruminating. And I know it doesn't sound like it'll work that way, but it does so often. It's unbelievable. It's when you ignore it that the signal keeps coming up, and those repeated cycles of thought, the repeated emotions of regret keep creeping in. But it's when you look at it for what it is, shine the light of your consciousness onto it, eventually it'll ease back down. You do that long enough, you can go into the next step, which is you have to look behind the thing you regret itself. So I regretted not continuing competing. But really, when I looked behind it long enough and I sat with it and embraced it, what really came in was there was a breach of value. I violated something. And for me, it was mastery. I loved getting good at something. I loved the challenge to stretch my boundary, the call for adventure and testing my courage. And because I halted that, in my mind, when I let's say ruminated onto it, that's where the chapter will end. And so I just keep going back and forth. Oh, but I stopped. Oh, but I stopped. Oh, but I stopped. But really, what I need to do is take those attributes, those skills, the things that I want to incorporate into my life that I am. And just like you, there are parts of you within that regret that are yours that you can integrate and put aside the story and apply it to the next thing. So for me, the test of courage, the mastery, the stretching my boundary was applied to this. I decided that I wanted to help people discover the stories that are secretly controlling their lives. And to do that, you have to unmask and be vulnerable. Well, the way to do it, to prove myself to some degree, is showing my vulnerability on camera when I would never have done that before. And so I had to test my courage, which is one of those values that I missed from that memory. The chase for mastery. I love studying psychology. I love understanding how the videos have to work, the thumbnails, the titles, all these things. How do they go together, and how do I get better at it? The love of just getting good at things. The test of courage, where I have to put myself out there and risk being, rejected and hated on and considered weak for being vulnerable and showing emotion on camera, perhaps even risking my authority because of it. Once I understood those values, those traits, and I took them and just applied it where I felt called to, and that's where things can get a little tricky. You have to feel internally with your soul and your heart, where do you want to aim this now? What gets you moving? This for me is a mission. I feel compelled that I want to spread this to as many people as possible. And so where once I was feeling regret that I didn't continue competing, I now can take that power, that fuel, because regret is fuel. If you understand that game, this process, it is fuel. And so I take that and I apply it here, and I feel invigorated and excited and motivated to move towards this, to build on top of this. Regret, when not utilized outward to a different adventure, that same fire will be pointing inwards, and it'll just burn you from the inside. It's going to have its power whether it's pointing inwards or whether you point it outward. Hopefully this helped you out today. And if you want to go deeper into inner work, and as somebody who dropped out of high school, and I dropped out of high school for competing itself, trying to understand these complicated textbooks and trying to make sense of it. If you want a more simplified, easier way of doing inner work and shadow work, click the first button below. It's my free PDF Identity Initiation Guide. It's going to do wonders in just simplifying the process. Doesn't make the process quicker, just makes it easier to understand. That way you can apply it pretty much right off the bat. Or doing this alone is very difficult. And if you want me to share space with you and work together to discover the hidden stories that are controlling your life, tackle regret, tackle self-sabotage, tackle the fear of failure, and actually get to the root so that we can move forward in a direction that feels right to you. It's something that I've not just done for myself, but many clients that I've worked with. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys on the next video.